At first glance, the rolling, endless hills might not have seemed so unusual. Most were relatively flat, with their contours only visible from a distance. Others were a bit more defined in shape, but not in height. Each of the various mounds that composed the landscape were unique, but they were also nearly indistinguishable. All were the same colorless shade of faded gray. There was no life in the hills or in the earth they rose above. There was only the hills, the still air, and the soundless drifting of dust off of and onto the hills. Only one structure broke the monotony of the emotionless environment, a small, open building similar in design to Greek temples. The shrine was as unremarkable as the surrounding space, but its presence was stark against the perpetual dust. 4 pairs of cylindrical columns sat on the flat base of the structure. Only half of the roof remained splayed across the columns. The entire building was the same color as the hills around it. Like everything else, it stood motionless and lifeless, as though whatever purpose it once possessed had been stolen from it. Standing between 2 of the dusty columns was an ornate sundial. Unlike the temple, the dial was neatly carved with several concentric rings on its base and face. Each circle had within it a different symbol and an accompanying figure on each of 5 faces. The face of the dial had 10 symbols layered on top of another set of concentric discs. Centered on the face of the discs was a triangular pointer oriented between 2 of the symbols. It was clear that the dial was designed to track the progress of some celestial object across the sky. The dial, however, seemed out of place for a world where no sun shone during the day, nor any moon signified the onset of night. There was no light, there was no shadow, there was no day, no night, no beginning, no end. No sound was made as the footsteps of the man cleared the dust on the floor of the structure. Silently, he walked to the center of the place and stood there for a moment surveying. Nothing changed. He crossed to the sundial. Standing there in thoughtful melancholy, he could only guess if it were eons or seconds passing before him. The answer did not matter. In his mind, he unconsciously traced the dial's complicated concentrics. He had seen the dial so many times now that it was possible for him to picture every symbol and every mark in his head. He turned away and looked out to the hills. It was time for another walk.